All right, part 7. I guess the last one was 6, so now we're on part 7. Jesus.
And I wasn't even like really looking at it. I was just more like looking at Dave and just freaking out at that point.
How did you know that one wasn't a dummy?
I'm not sure that it wasn't a dummy. Still, I mean, now we know really that it could have been a live round, but in my head, I was thinking that might have been one of the old dummies that the primer cap can pop it out.
Okay.
Because those, I don't know, those.
Do we know when she first discovered that there were live rounds in the box? Because we skipped to 2 days later at one of the vigils. Sarah came and said more than half the rounds in the box were live. This is her job, the armor. She loaded the gun from the box. She allowed the box. How this woman is not charged with a freaking crime, the only answer is the investigation was so incompetent by this woman that the DA is like, I'll never get a conviction because the interviews sucked so much.
Still, I haven't heard a lot of reports of those, but I know that those did used to exist.
Okay. So after gun was emptied, I mean, how'd you...
Do you mind if we take a break?
Yeah,
I'm like getting a little flustered.
Yeah.
Oh, you're getting flustered? Oh. I mean, you know, this woman who seems meek and mannered and wants to get along and doesn't want to challenge anybody when it comes to safety of guns, she seems pretty assertive when she wants to be. Do you mind if we take a break? I'm ready to take a break. That's pretty assertive. She's pretty comfortable to just stand up and do that. But Rick, you just don't like her because she's a strong, empowered one. Shut up, you freaking idiots.
I'm sorry. Oh.
The restroom okay?
Yeah.
Restroom.
You think maybe she's getting flustered because we're getting to the meat and potatoes about how live rounds got in there and how somebody's dead because she loaded a freight? Maybe that's why she's flustered. Maybe this isn't a good time for a break. I don't care if we take a break or not. When I come back, I'm turning on the heat, so it doesn't matter to me. But these idiots.
I'm like, you get a little stuffy in this.
Totally. Yeah, it's one.
Music. Maybe those are microphones. I don't know why you need a microphone, dude. You ain't said one damn word. All right, so I'm just going to bump. She's coming back.
And both of them actually are Christian. Christian Kano, California, and
Okay, yeah.
we're going on 5 months back in Canada. I'm just when I graduated the academy.
What does that say? I got a 20-year retirement? I got a 20-year?
That's good.
I got the 20-year retirement
I
plan.
got a 20-year retirement plan, I think, after 2030. What the
When I
hell?
graduated the academy.
I graduated the academy, and then they switched it. What the fuck?
Yeah.
Is she going to do a little yoga?
Bible would teach you on to the business realm.
She's probably smelling her bits because she's sweating. She's nervous.
We're all
Maybe she doesn't use deodorant. Maybe she doesn't shave her arms with her purple hair. Maybe that's why she's smelling.
I'm good. I'm good.
It's fine. I just.
Yeah. I like your poor dog. Oh, I know, right? Yeah.
So, I don't understand how this woman is wearing this heavy thing around her neck in here. No one else looks cold. Why does she have this big thing around her neck?
Outside,
Yeah.
so I'm not...
Oh, terror. Yeah.
Sorry.
Mine used to, I had a German Shepherd, like a young one, a few years ago,
Okay.
and like she
So
totally,
people are going
like,
to say,
chewed
yeah,
up
this
all
is
my
bonding.
panties and
This,
fucking
I don't want to bond
trashed
with
all my
her.
plants.
I want to get
Oh,
freaking
Yeah, I don't
I'm
let
not
him
here to make
inside
friends and have
at all.
fun.
Yeah, he
I
used
wanna get
pictures in the
justice for
beginning
this
because I
woman
just
that's
wasn't
dead.
gonna deal with that.
Yeah.
I normally
I'm
don't
not
take
here
care of
to
my
be your
dogs, but
friend.
I've only had
You were incompetent. You got someone killed.
so
and I'm here to find out
the
why.
different one that I had, reckless, like, yeah, he's insane.
Oh, well, yeah. Those huskies are pretty.
Oh yeah.
The huskies.
I think it's fun. Yeah. I literally stretched in here. That's so funny.
I have no.
I know, that's what I'm saying.
What was this? Alex messed up in his head?
Yeah, I totally had you and Alex mixed up in my head. That's so funny.
I have no.
I know. That's what I'm saying. I had you guys, like, I thought she was Alec, and I talked to her, like, most of the time. Didn't even realize.
Another water?
Do you have
Do you want
underwear?
another water?
Oh, do you underwater?
Okay.
That were in your pocket. It's common for you to carry them in your pocket.
Yeah. My dad usually carries a couple of, like, his favorite dummies, you know, like good night safe ones in his pocket, and I do the same. But we had 3 guns dummied up that day, so I used a couple of them on other guns.
Yeah, your favorite dummies in your pocket. But you take rounds out of a box that shows up, and you don't know how it showed up, and you never check the box, and then you load a gun from that box. How is that not criminally negligent? I just don't get why this girl is not charged.
Okay. Is that why you keep them in your pocket? Is that why you?
Yeah, because just in case, and then also I have another in the bag on the bottom of it. You'll probably realize that there's also some dummies in those pockets down there too. I try to keep like at least a good 12 dummies ready in situations.
Those are, but you're talking about the like bags, though, right? I'm talking about your pants.
Yeah, I'm talking about my pants. Yeah, okay, yeah. I always try to keep like at least 5 or 6.
If you're loading the guns and you're handing the guns dummied up or not dummied up, what would be the purpose of having 12 dummies on you? I mean, do dummies just pop out of the guns that you load and you have to replace them? Well, why do you carry dummies? Well, maybe one falls out of the gun belt. Well, I mean, that just makes it seem more real. Bullets fall out of gun belts. What? I don't understand why you have to have 12 dummies in your pockets. Why you have all this mix mash of quarter load, half load, full load, dummies in your pocket, live rounds in boxes that just show up. You don't check, you shake, some don't, some have holes, some have primers, some don't have problems. I thought it was the old dummy rounds because they use real, what? There's no consistency or processes to prevent this. I'm just surprised more people haven't been killed. Unfortunately, this woman, you know what? Luck of the draw, whatever. Hollywood gets what they want. You know, Rick, you can't be disrespectful. I don't give a shit. You have shitty hiring practices. This is what you get. Dead people. When you have shitty promotion and shitty investigations, you have investigations that go unsolved, and you have people committing crimes that never get arrested, and you have victims that never get justice because you hire shitty people because of what bathroom they use. Same thing here. The irony you could cut with a knife.
In there.
Do you remember where you pulled those from?
Those I came out of one of my old boxes, and we had been using them from the weekend previous, and those were the ones with no primer caps.
So did you have those in your pocket prior to going to lunch?
Yeah, those should have been in the gun already.
Should have been. Do you know? Or are you guessing?
No, I'm talking about the ones that were in your pockets. So.
Yeah, the four without primer caps.
I think you pulled 6 rounds, 6 or 7 out of your pocket.
No, I'm pretty sure I pulled the 4 out of there, and then I got the other 2 from the box and shook them as I walked.
No, I'm talking, so the night that you came in.
Glossed over that part. So you said you shook the rounds you took out of the box? Then how did the live round get in there? If you shook it, you should have heard that it didn't make a noise. How did it get in the gun? Either you didn't shake it, or you shook it and you don't listen and you don't care and you just shake to go through the process. You're not really checking. How did that live round get in the gun? Oh my!
For an interview.
Oh yeah, I had some extras in there. I think I found some more, and I was like, I'll put some more in there just in case.
But do you remember when you put those in your pocket?
No, not exactly.
Before or after lunch?
I don't really remember.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
See, if the DA charges this girl with a crime, she's not going to give any more interviews. And she doesn't have to take the stand. So the whole case, when a DA files, has to be on the investigator's ability to pull a good statement and lock her down so I can convince a jury without her taking the stand. If she takes the stand, the DA can do just what I'm doing and eat her up. But if she doesn't take the stand, how is the DA going to charge with this shitty interview? That's why you shouldn't hire shitty people, because of what bathroom they use to make people feel good.
Sorry.
So then how come you didn't pull from your pockets to load that sentence?
Well, like I told you, I pulled those out earlier, and I totally forgot that there were more in there.
More in where?
More dummies in my pocket.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought you just said you carried like 12 dummies in your pockets.
I'd forgotten that they were there.
That one last one that you pulled to load the gun? Do you remember checking that round?
Yeah.
And what do you remember about it?
Seemed fine to me, and Dave was just kind of in my ear, and so I was shaking it, walking in, and putting it in there.
Oh, so Dave was in your ear. We're going to gloss over that. See, that's a great... Her defense attorney, if she get charged with a crime, be like, if you remember, the DA brought up that she said Dave was talking to her, and she was distracted, and that was her boss. And she had to do the prop job, and she had to take bathroom breaks, and there were sticks, and there was chaotic, and sometimes Sarah did things. It wasn't her fault. How can you convict my client? Well, you can't, because you have a shitty investigator asking shitty questions and not making a case that is prosecutable.
Okay. But he wasn't in your ear until you were in the church, right?
No, he was in my ear, like, and
your radio.
Yeah, there's always a fuck ton of people in my ears. It's not the voices up here walking. It's not the voices. It's a ton of people, and you'll see me a lot of times on set. Just take that thing out and throw it as far as I can.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you don't remember when
that's how I knew when he was telling me. Yeah, I don't remember exactly when those were in my pockets, and honestly, they might have been in my pockets, in a spot where they aren't normally, you know.
Okay.
So when you're saying in your pocket, do you always wear the same pants? You said it was your favorite pants. Did you wear those multiple days in a row? Could there be rounds in other pants pockets? When you go to the range and shoot live rounds and practice, do you put live rounds in your pocket? I mean, there's just no locking this incompetence down.
All right. So I have some questions regarding, like, media statements that you guys have put out.
Okay, yeah.
So I guess that's it. That's the investigation, people. All the questions that I ask, we'll never know. Now we're going to talk about media things. Remember, this is the only time you get to talk to somebody, because once you charge them, the attorneys won't let you talk to them again. And they probably won't put them on a stand. This is your one bite at the apple, which is why you want your best interviewing and somebody that's competent, because if they mess up, we'll never get the information and we can't prosecute. And then the guilty party walks. Wow. What a freaking disservice to this woman that died.
And just so you know, like, one of them was Bob. Got a little crazy, and Bob said some pretty weird stuff that doesn't necessarily represent what I had told him.
He's not on the case anymore.
Yeah, we took him off, just so you know.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah. We completely...
Yeah, Lawrence is no longer in the case.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, it's more just stuff that you guys have released. So the first one was about training days. You made a statement about how you wanted training days.
Yeah.
Who did you express that to?
Gabrielle.
Okay.
How about you say exactly what they said and then ask, what do you mean? You made a statement about what does that mean? If I'm sitting on a jury and when you're interviewing people, you need to realize you need to break it down so when somebody's sitting on a jury, they can paint a picture in their head what happened. I don't know what statement she's talking about, what training days mean, what they said.
Yeah, and I asked about it to Ro and Gabrielle. Right from the get-go, I tried to start getting actors and everything to start working with me. Kind of one a day would have been ideal. They told me...
So she's going to get to say all this, and they're not going to lock her down. Who did you say it to? Did you put it in writing? Did you email? Did you text it? If it was verbal, was there any witnesses? When I asked this person, do you think they're going to remember you saying this? What was their answer? I mean, this is just a whole new line of questioning that this idiot will not ask. But again, horrible investigation.
They were like, well, no one really needs to get trained. You know, these are all trained people. And I was like, okay, whatever. I thought that more actors were coming in later and I would train them as the show went on.
Okay, whatever. Really? Who said that they were all trained? Sarah? Dave? Your boss? Who's your boss? Nick? We got so many players, I don't know. Who said that? Who did you bring it up to?
But then Joel called me, and Joel was like, no, we need to train, like, all the actors. They're going to be there that first week. And I said, okay. So, yeah, they set up a training day. But I was trying to get them in from, like, the very get-go.
Okay.
Yeah.
But, I mean, the statement was that you fought for training days.
I did. So, I was always pretty much arguing with Gab.
I was always pretty much. Always pretty much. How many times? How many days? What was the answer? What did you say? And what did they say?
Gabrielle and for him. Because at first I didn't even want to have the training day, you know. Because at first I didn't even want.
At first, I didn't even want. Really? So you released the statements that you fought for it, but at first you really didn't want it? Why did you not want it at first? That might be a good question. What changed?
I want to have the training day, you know. So
They're expecting people to just...
Yeah, no, they literally did not want to have that training day at first, and they told me it wasn't necessary. And then after Joel called me, Joel told them, like, no, don't be stupid. You guys need to have these people trained.
Joel sounds like he might have a head on his shoulder. Wow.
Joel, like, that happens all the time with directors and producers.
Anybody know if Joel's a director or producer?
So Joel pretty much overruled them saying no.
Yeah, Joel was like, no, like, you know, they didn't want to pay the money for it. Joel was like, you pay the money for it. But yeah, so they didn't want to have that day originally, and then the training day that I fought for, that I was trying to fight for, was the one with Alec after our training day. So after I had trained with Alec was the only actor I trained that day, and I was thankfully able to step away from props for a little bit in order to train Alec that day.
I was able to step away from props. Props hasn't come up once during this entire interview. What did you do? How many times? Explain what your jobs were. I have no idea, and no one else does, and no one will.
At the church, and we practiced some of his stuff. Other than that, he was really distracted. He was on the phone a lot, and his holster wasn't available for him to practice with that day.
He was on the phone, really distracted. Everybody's fault. Everybody's fault. I had to pee. I didn't get a break. Came back from lunch. There were sticks and rocks, people in my ear, and he was on his phone. Man, anybody that hires this girl after watching this is a bigger idiot than her.
So I told him the next day we should practice with the holster. And he said, yeah, I agree. I will see you tomorrow. I'm also riding horses tomorrow, so we'll do that too. And I said, okay, cool.
See, and I understand where Alex is like, hey, I've done 50 movies. I've worked with some real professional people. And I've got this young purple-haired kid that doesn't know her ass from a hole in the ground, that's got excuses, that's never around, that's always busy with something else, that doesn't know shit and thinks she knows shit because her dad knew shit, and she wants to tell me what to do? I don't need to listen to her. That's the problem when you don't hire real experts and you just hire people to play experts. Kind of like this.
I told Gabrielle, and Gabrielle was all like, Gabrielle was basically like, I'll handle Alex. Because, Alex is a producer, kind of does whatever he wants, and so the other producers have to reel him in all the time. So for him to ask for another armor a day, which is only like $60 more, for him to ask for another armor a day, they were trying to like X-nay it.
Not do it.
Yeah.
Did you ever?
They. Who is they? Why would they be worried about $60? And if Alex was a producer and he wanted it, why didn't it happen? Was it overruled? Who stopped it?
Put any of this in writing or emails or text messages?
Yeah, it's a lot of text between me and Gabrielle, but other than that, mostly the next morning, when he was supposed to show up for his lesson, he comes to set, doesn't really say anything about his lessons. The producers are telling me, like, no, like, we don't want him doing this lesson this day. I had already talked to them about it, and I said he needs to practice, and I was telling Nathan, and Nathan was like, you called it. I said he needs to practice with his holster, otherwise he might, like, honestly shoot himself in the arm. Or
how would he shoot himself in the arm if he's using blanks? I think she means on the actual shoot day, when he actually draws and fires a blank, he may shoot himself in the arm. That's what she means, but it's not going to be cleared up.
Get really pissed off and have a whole ass hissy fit. And it happened, actually, a little after that. Nathan was like, you called it. And I said, yeah, I did.
What happened?
He tried to pull from his holster. It got caught on his microphone, and he got so pissed and threw a big-ass hissy fit and started bitching out sounds. Thankfully, I didn't get that. I didn't get the lashing,
Yeah.
But, yeah, so the next... Yeah, we can show you those. The next morning... Sarah had to leave set.
See, again, when you don't hire a professional, I don't care about a lashing. I don't care if you get upset. If you hire me to do a job, I'm going to do the job. I'm responsible so nobody gets killed. And if you don't like it, then hire someone else. But she's not in a position to say that. And that's the problem when you start doing quota hiring. You can't hold people accountable.
Set all day. Sarah was sick as a dog as well. And Sarah was leaving set to go get shit done, including some other stuff like with the knives and the knife holster and all this stuff. So it's just me running stuff on set with Nicole on a very prop-heavy day. And props includes food and everything, just so you know. So we had a whole table scene that we had to do with just 2 people, which is manageable, but also, like, I was also training the actor with that gun.
Man, she was doing a whole bunch of stuff. Anybody got a timeline on how she was doing all this? How do you set up? How do you do that? She's always got someone else to blame and point. It's Sarah's fault when it goes wrong with the gun, and now it's Nicole or whoever else is with props. It's never her fault. And she never takes responsibility for it. Not once has she said, I should have checked. I should have prevented this. Has the armor, I'm ultimately responsible and I feel responsible. I should have prevented. Not once has she said that.
While they're doing it, like just the girl, she wasn't shooting it or anything, but they decided randomly that they wanted to have her have a gun. So I didn't get paid for armor that day either. I'm working 2 jobs. And I was supposed to give lessons to Alec that day.
And I had to go pee.
But ultimately could not because, 1, he didn't show up. 2, the producers wouldn't let him. And then 3, I had to stay on set and work with the frickin' food.
Okay. But he had agreed to do that day with you, and then it was kind of shut down by others.
He said, I will see you tomorrow. And then I also, I think it was a little after that, a couple days after that, where I texted his assistant and I said, hey, does he need any more work with this? Like, how is he feeling about that? And he's like, he hasn't expressed anything to me, but I'll let him know that you asked.
Okay.
Yeah, so I had tried to possibly work with Alec more after that.
Okay.
So those are, like, the training days I kind of fought for. After his assistant, like, didn't really talk to me back, I'm not exactly going to push for this really big actor to receive that training.
Okay. So in reviewing, like, first interview and then media statements, and now there's a little bit of inconsistency about when the gun was checked, or the rounds that were checked.
Okay.
Explain the inconsistency, you idiot, and make her justify why it's different.
From my understanding, you checked them in the morning, and then...
So now she's going to give testimony. She's going to repeat. Instead of having her repeat, so we have 2 statements, or we get more inconsistency, and we see what she remembered, and whether she remembers her lies, or whether she is lying, or whether she's confused. Instead, I'll just tell you what you told me, and then you can agree. What an idiot.
Didn't take him out again after lunch.
Didn't take the rounds out of the gun after lunch? Well, you could
They weren't checked again.
You could see that there were no primer caps. I checked the one that I had put in there after that.
You couldn't say that you checked with no primer caps because one of them had a primer. It was a live round. Either you didn't check it. I mean, you can't have both.
Okay, but you said only 4 of them had no primer caps and the other 2 did.
Yeah, and the other 2 did. Yeah, I pulled that other one out slightly and looked for the hole.
You pulled one out? So you just happened not to pull the actual live round out and check? So basically, she just said, I didn't check all the rounds. I checked 4 for the primers, and then I pulled one of the 2 with primers out to check. I was being lazy. I was taking the easy way. I had a lot of excuses. I wanted to go outside and take a break. I had to go pee. She's criminally liable.
I mean, the holes are at the bottom, though. You'd have to pull it out a pretty good ways.
I'm pretty sure it was, like, kind of midway.
So I guess I need clarification because, you know.
You don't need clarification. You haven't got clarification on shit. I'm so confused. I ain't got clarification on shit that you've asked.
Gorance was actually the one that went on the media and said, you did not check the gun.
Bob.
And he was completely wrong about
And that's why we fired him. That's exactly why I fired him. And he also said the gun was left unattended for 2 hours on the prop cart. He, like, made a bunch of crazy-ass statements.
So, because he didn't agree with you and said the shit was wrong, you fired him. Really?
And that's why I said, fuck that, Bob's off.
Okay. So that's why I want clarification on.
Yeah, no, Bob, like,
checked.
Bob said that I didn't check the gun, and that was fucked up.
Bob was right. You didn't check the gun. Because had you checked it, a person wouldn't be dead.
Because, yeah, I checked it when I put him in there, and then, yeah.
Prior to lunch.
Yeah. Prior to lunch, and then, yeah. Afterwards, opened it up, checked it, yeah.
But by check, you mean just opening
Just pulled
it
that one
and-
out, yeah, and also brushed it and put that other one in.
Okay. And I
She didn't lock her down there. She's admitting that she didn't check all 6 rounds, and this idiot isn't making it clear.
don't know if this is coming from you or if it was from him, this whole theory on somebody sabotaging the sex.
Yeah. Jason kind of agrees with me on that. We've all kind of thought about what happened here, and a whole box with what Sarah said to be half live.
We have to know, as an investigator, I would know how many live rounds were in that box and how many blanks, and who the manufacturer were, and whether they were dusty or dirty. I would have pictures. I would know. They have not asked her, do you know how many live rounds were in that box that you pulled out of? Do you know how many live rounds were there? She did say, I don't know, or yes, I do know. How do you know? Did you ever look? Did you see? Do you know what the caliber were? Were they all 45 long? We don't know any of that. And she hasn't asked the girl any of the questions on that. Even if she doesn't know, you ask the question.
Ammunition and half dummy ammunition, that doesn't happen. That's super weird that would even be on set.
So who do you think would do that?
I still don't know if there was ever shooting on a set. Either after hours, at lunch, did anybody ever shoot live rounds out at that ranch? Did they do a warrant? I know that they had a warrant. They had to do a warrant to go out there and search. Did they check for empty casings and live rounds or a shooting area? Did they find live rounds? We don't know any of that. And my guess is they probably didn't, because they would be asking her. Well, maybe not, because they're so incompetent. But if I found empty casings out there of live rounds, and I would know they were live rounds because they would say Federal or Spear or whatever a manufacturer round is that doesn't do blanks, I would know it's a live round. And I would be asking. We found 15 empty casings of 223. We found casings from 357. We found rounds that you didn't have out there. There must have been shooting out there. When did that happen? Where? Who did it? Where did the live rounds come from? Who bought live rounds? Do you keep live rounds in your car? When was the last time you bought live rounds? Do you have live rounds in any of your pockets? If I go search your car now, is there any live rounds in it? We don't know any of that.
Honestly, I'm not sure. I will say right now that, Seth supplies all the boxes. And then on top of that, I was beefing with Seth at the time.
Beefing. Oh, so her and Seth had problems. And he's supplying. So she's throwing him under the bus. He's throwing her under the bus. Remember, he said in his interview that she's trying to hide it out, and I hope they don't find out. So he threw her on the bus. Now she's throwing her on the bus. This is such an easy case to charge her if you had a real investigation and a real investigator. Oh, I'm at 30 minutes. Guess we're going to part 8.